Healthy boundaries begin with self-awareness. Before you can communicate limits to others, you must first understand what matters to you and where your personal thresholds lie. Values act as an internal compass, helping you recognize when a boundary is being crossed. For example, if you value rest and balance, consistently working late or responding to messages at all hours may violate an unspoken limit. Clarifying boundaries involves paying attention to emotional cues. Feelings such as resentment, anxiety, guilt, or exhaustion often signal that a boundary is needed. Rather than dismissing these emotions, view them as important information about your needs. Journaling, reflection, or mindfulness practices can help you identify patterns where you feel overextended or uncomfortable. Once you understand your limits, boundaries become less about control and more about self-respect. You are not creating rules to restrict others. You are defining what you can and cannot offer without harming your well-being. This clarity builds confidence and makes boundary communication feel grounded and intentional rather than reactive. Saying no is one of the most powerful boundary setting skills, yet it is also one of the hardest, especially for people who fear conflict or rejection. Many individuals feel compelled to justify or over-explain their decisions, which can weaken boundaries and invite negotiation. A healthy boundary does not require a lengthy explanation to be valid. Practicing simple, respectful refusals helps reinforce your autonomy. Phrases such as, "I'm not able to take that on right now," or "that doesn't work for me," are complete responses. Over time, learning to tolerate the discomfort that may arise from saying no is essential. Discomfort does not mean you are doing something wrong, it often means you are doing something new. By saying no clearly and calmly, you teach others how to treat you and signal that your time and energy matter. This builds mutual respect in relationships and reduces burnout. Remember, every time you say yes to something that drains you, you are saying no to something that nourishes you, such as rest, creativity, or connection. Healthy boundaries rely on clear, direct communication rather than hints, avoidance, or passive behavior. Many boundary issues arise when expectations are assumed rather than expressed. Direct communication reduces misunderstandings and allows others to respond appropriately. When expressing a boundary, use I statements to focus on your experience rather than blaming or criticizing. For example, "I need advance notice before making plans" is more effective than "you're always so last minute." This approach keeps the conversation collaborative rather than defensive. Tone matters just as much as wording. Calm, steady delivery helps convey confidence and self-respect. Boundaries do not need to be harsh to be firm. Practicing boundary conversations in advance, either aloud or in writing, can reduce anxiety and increase clarity. Clear communication also includes consistency. Repeatedly enforcing the same boundary reinforces its importance. While it may feel uncomfortable at first, clarity ultimately strengthens relationships by creating predictability, safety, and trust. Healthy communication allows space for both your needs and the needs of others to coexist respectfully. Guilt is one of the biggest barriers to setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. Many people have been conditioned to prioritize others' needs over their own, leading to the belief that self-care is selfish. Recognizing that guilt often accompanies growth can help you move through it rather than retreat from your boundaries. It is important to distinguish between healthy guilt, which signals harm caused to others, and unhealthy guilt, which arises from disappointing someone or choosing yourself. Setting boundaries may upset others, but discomfort does not equal wrongdoing. You are allowed to protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being. Reframing boundaries as acts of honesty rather than rejection can reduce guilt. When you communicate limits clearly, you prevent resentment and emotional exhaustion, which ultimately benefits relationships. Practicing self-compassion during this process is essential. Remind yourself that your needs are valid and deserving of care. Over time, as boundaries become more integrated, guilt often diminishes and is replaced by a sense of empowerment, balance, and self-trust. If boundary setting feels overwhelming, starting small can make the process more manageable and sustainable. You do not need to overhaul all relationships at once. Begin by identifying one low-risk situation where a boundary would support your well-being, such as declining a minor request or setting a small time limit. Small successes build confidence and reinforce your ability to advocate for yourself. As you experience positive outcomes, such as relief, increased energy, or improved communication, you may feel more prepared to address more complex or emotionally charged boundaries. Gradual boundary building also allows others time to adjust. People accustomed to your availability or flexibility may need time to recalibrate expectations. Consistency rather than intensity is key. Gentle repetition helps boundaries become normalized rather than confrontational. By honoring small limits, you strengthen your self-trust and reduce the fear associated with saying no. Over time, these incremental changes create a solid foundation for healthier, more balanced relationships across all areas of life. Your body and emotions often recognize boundary violations before your mind does. Physical tension, headaches, fatigue, irritability, or anxiety can all signal that a boundary is being crossed. Learning to listen to these cues helps you respond proactively rather than reactively. Emotional signals such as resentment or dread are particularly important. These feelings do not mean you are unkind. They often indicate that you are overgiving or neglecting your own needs. Instead of pushing through discomfort, pause and ask yourself what boundary is missing. Mindfulness practice can help this awareness. Checking in with yourself regularly before and after interactions can help you notice patterns and make adjustments. When you respond to signals early, boundaries can be communicated calmly rather than after frustration builds. Honoring your internal signals strengthens self-respect and prevents burnout. Over time, you may find that your body relaxes and your emotional responses become more regulated as your boundaries become clearer and more consistent. Not everyone will respond positively to your boundaries, especially if they benefit from your lack of limits. Pushback does not mean your boundary is wrong, it often means it's necessary. Preparing for resistance can help you stay grounded and consistent. Common forms of pushback include guilt tripping, minimizing your needs, or repeated requests after you have said no. Having prepared responses can reduce anxiety. Simple phrases such as, I understand this is frustrating and my decision remains the same, reinforce boundaries without escalating conflict. It's also important to observe patterns. Respectful individuals may need time to adjust, while consistently dismissive behavior may signal deeper relational issues. Boundaries reveal who is willing to respect your autonomy. Staying firm during pushback strengthens self-trust and clarifies expectations. While it might feel uncomfortable initially, maintaining boundaries often leads to healthier dynamics or clearer decisions about which relationships are sustainable. Healthy boundaries require understanding what is and what is not your responsibility. You are responsible for your thoughts, feelings, and actions, but not for managing other people's emotions or reactions. Over responsibility often leads to emotional exhaustion and blurred boundaries. Many people take on the role of fixer or caregiver, believing it is their job to keep others comfortable or happy. While empathy is valuable, it becomes harmful when it overrides your own needs. Allowing others to experience disappointment or discomfort is not cruelty, it's part of healthy autonomy. Practicing emotional separation means acknowledging others' feelings without absorbing them. Statements like, I see this as hard for you, can coexist with firm boundaries. This approach fosters mutual respect and emotional maturity. Letting go of over-responsibility creates space for healthier connections where support flows both ways rather than in one direction. Boundaries are not static. They evolve as your circumstances, roles, and needs change. What worked in one season of life may no longer be suitable in another. Regularly revisiting boundaries allows them to remain aligned with your current reality. Life transitions, such as career changes, parenthood, healing from burnout, or shifts in mental health, often require boundary adjustments. Reflecting on what feels supportive versus draining helps you recalibrate without self-judgment. Communicating changes openly reinforces trust. For example, explaining that your availability has shifted due to new commitments helps others understand rather than assume withdrawal. Flexibility does not mean abandoning boundaries, it means adapting to them intentionally. Viewing boundaries as living agreements rather than rigid rules allows for growth, balance, and ongoing self-awareness. Building healthy boundaries is a skill, not a personality trait, and it takes time to develop. Mistakes, setbacks, and discomfort are part of the learning process. Self-compassion helps you stay engaged rather than giving up when boundaries feel difficult. Instead of criticizing yourself for struggling, acknowledge the courage it takes to change long-standing patterns. Speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a close friend. This intentional support strengthens resilience and confidence. Celebrate progress even when it feels small. Each boundary you set reinforces your worth and teaches your nervous system that you are safe to advocate for yourself. Over time, boundaries become less effortful and more intuitive. Self-compassion transforms boundary setting from a battle into an act of care, helping you create relationships that are respectful, balanced, and emotionally sustainable.